Thank you very much, Jaipur Ophthalmic Society, Dr. Virendra Agarwal, Dr. R.K. Sharma, and Dr. Vishal. Uh, we are passing through unusual times, and both for the patient and for the consultant. So, this is basically a talk in that spirit. So, patient partnership is based on the knowledge a patient develops from the experience of health and psychosocial problems from the trajectory of care and services and the impact of these problems on his personal life and that of his relatives. It's a complex situation where we have to help the patients nowadays by focusing on a lot of aspects which patients and all of us are passing through these unusual times. Our diabetic loads are going up, as we know. Long-term complications of the chronic disease affect every system in the body: eyes, kidneys, heart, feet, nerves. And the highest increase after China is seen in India over the years. And we are expecting the numbers to keep on going up. Majority of the patients with diabetes have at least one comorbid disease, and up to 40% have at least three, increasing the number of appointments required by various specialists, whether it be an endocrinologist, whether it be nephrologist, or cardiologist, or the retinologist. Prevalence of diabetes-related comorbidities during follow-up DME cases is given here, and renal disease figures quite high in the number, as does cerebrovascular disease and other disorders. We all know it is in our country where most of the patients are not covered by insurance but take on the burden of treatment themselves. It is indeed a complex issue, and insurance many times does not even cover pre-existing diabetes. So a lot of expenses are out of the pocket. This is a chart of the average visit by a DME patient in 6 months. And after the nephrologist, retina specialist figure high among the list. Patient adherence is itself affected by factors including age, psychological status, expectations of treatment, which despite lot of counseling many times are not met. Ease of travel and cost, especially in these times in our country where the economy is also hit and travel is not simple. You require permits to enter from state to state. You require permit even at times to enter into a district. Work-related obligations and comorbidities reduce the compliance, and in lot of places, the most common reason is dissatisfaction at one center, and the patient goes, shopping at the other center, then going to another doctor, and many times morbidity like death. If we look at injection frequencies in DME, they show a more pronounced decrease from a median of 6 injections in the first year to between 1 and 2 in year 2 and 4, before rising more in the 6th year. The mean number of injections with anti-VEGFs in real-world studies figure on an average about 5. While if we use dexamethasone implants, the number falls down drastically, giving us almost the same visual gain and the final visual acuities. So frequent injections are also an added burden to ophthalmologists. A reduced number of intravitreal injections could reduce the burden of care for patients and optimize patient outcomes. Even in real-world studies, these are the mean letter gains which have been seen with the dexamethasone implant. and average is around 6 letter gains per injection, which then stabilizes. Treatment of DME and RVO with intravitreal injection therapy and the requirement for multiple and repeated hospital visits has a large practical impact on patients' quality of life. Each injection appointment took in, this is a study by Siva Prasad and his colleagues, published in 2016, took an average of 4.5 hours, comprising an average of 79 minutes of travel time. In our country, this could be longer, and 188 minutes of appointment time. For the patient who patients who work needed a day off at least. So multiple visitations in the current pandemic is risky, especially for diabetics. Besides being exposed to the risk of pandemic exposure, there are other disadvantages. There is a lot of anxiety involved, as we are all experiencing in our practice. The patients are anxious, they want to come quickly, get over and go back, and you're anxious, you also don't want them sticking in the hospital for long in the outpatient department. So, more patients with DME reported being anxious, having their sleep affected, and having reduced concentration when compared with patients of RVO. This is another study. And in the current pandemic, additional reports of anxiety from patients related to needing to ask for career, which led to patients feeling guilty. Multiple visitations also have more cost implications. An average cost of anti-VEGFs is higher than the average cost of an implant, which can last with its effect for about 3.5 months on an average. There's some of the patients, I'll be coming to the figure later, just giving you a case example of a patient whom we changed from anti-VEGFs after March, and this patient was an only eye patient, and it had an effect close to phase to 660 vision. Another patient who had a cataract with DME in the right eye, pseudophakia with DME, cataract surgery was done in the left eye in 2019. There was aggravation of DME, and the patient had already received about 11 injections in each eye over the last 2 years, in 2018 and 2019. So in 2020, we switched him on to Ozurdex. He was also keen for less injections, and we've had a fair stabilization of vision, which was the same level he would achieve after anti-VEGF therapy. In current times, relevant to realize that added cost of COVID RT-PCR test if you are following the protocol and the logistics involved in it, fewer injections, less number of COVID test costs. Our switch has been nearly 70% to steroid therapy because of this reason from anti-VEGF therapy post-March 2020. It has been surely our choice when there is added burden of cataract surgery to patients in presence of DME. We have been routinely using in patients who are post 60 years and phakic with some lenticular changes also. Amidst this pandemic, considerations towards patient and treating doctors, social distancing, therapeutic distancing, and quality of life is important. For chronic pathologies such as DME, we have this alternative. So this is just a thought wave on the present scenario. Any discussion on the same is welcome.
Thank you, Shobit, for your frank views on management of diabetic macular edema. Let us have one or two questions from the panel, because I myself am a very frequent. I shift to Ozurdex, especially in DME, pretty fast. I do not wait mandatory 3 or sometimes 6 injections as Bressler, tells in his talks, because he specifically in DME, like ARMD patients are old patients, you see 60, 70, but DME is, most of them are working population also. So you don't want them to keep coming very frequently to your clinic. So I just wanted to ask, all the joint sitting here, do they consider it as a primary treatment, and when do they shift? Only two questions are very important. So we'll ask Anand. Anand, when do you ever do primary treatment naive first time Ozurdex?
I actually don't do primary treatment unless there is a systemic total, contraindication. For example, somebody has a stroke or a MI or something like that. For systemic reasons, that is when I would go for steroids as a primary treatment.
And
otherwise,
how early do you shift?
I would probably shift if in 2 injections I see absolutely no response, it's absolutely the same, then I would feel encouraged. Also, especially if the patient is pseudophakic and is an elderly patient, and that happens quite often. Elderly pseudophakic patient. Why elderly? Because the incidence of IOP rise is a little lesser, and with Ozurdex we know it's even lesser than Tricort. And pseudophakia because obviously there's no risk of cataract. So in these cases, elderly pseudophakia patients I would do. Also, if I know the posology or the history before, if you said treatment name, I know, but if this patient has had say 3 or 4 injections and I've had the benefit of knowing what those results were, and I found that it didn't benefit, then perhaps I might be a little more encouraged to start off with steroids at this point a little earlier.
RK, your views on that?
Yeah, usually I don't start with Ozurdex. First line of treatment for me for DME is basically anti-VEGF. But as Anand said, in pseudophakics with the very high CMT, means more than 600 micron, or those with the comorbidities, yes, I do start with Ozurdex in these cases.
Vishal?
So my concern is that if the patient is not able to come again and again, it actually is more economically viable and more effective to use Ozurdex as a prime therapy. Of course, I go just not on the edema part. I do a FFA, and if there's a lot of ischemia or small areas of neovascularization, I might inject anti-VEGF with the treatment. But if there is not much CNP areas and the edema is a lot, I would go with Ozurdex as the prime therapy.
So you take
even in patients who are phakic.
So that I agree. So you take into consideration FA picture like CNP and ischemia.
The baseline will always have a FFA, every diabetic.
Raja is there?
I think, Lalit, it might be a little relevant to focus on this question in light of the current pandemic.
Yeah, I am coming to that because your 2 slides were quite interesting. That you see, somehow I do not do routine COVID test in any of the injections. We do it only for GA patients or plastic patients or long surgeries. But I think there is a rationale what you have been saying, that in COVID era we obviously want to decrease the number of visits because all patients who enter my hospital are treated as potential COVID positive, and we take precautions irrespective. So that is the best way to deal with COVID, that you treat everybody as positive. Like our waiting area has capacity for 80 patients, but only 10 patients sitting there, and all those triage and everybody does that. Hossein Matada, would you like to throw some light on this about DME management, your choice of treatment, anti-VEGF versus steroids?
Usually, I do not like to start with the steroid. I start with the anti-VEGF, mainly Eylea. This is my first choice, and my second choice is Lucentis. I use steroid in persistent macular edema, especially when the patient underwent previous vitrectomy. I like to inject Ozurdex because it may act for longer time, but I usually measure the intraocular pressure before injecting Ozurdex. If it is in the range of 18, 19, 20, I usually refrain from injecting Ozurdex because this patient may develop glaucoma that may be difficult to control. But if it is in the 14, 12, 14, so I may inject Ozurdex. In my practice, Ozurdex does not last for more than 2.5, maximum 3 months, not more than that. And if you inject the regular triamcinolone, it usually lasts for 2 months. So for the sake of costs, I may start by using triamcinolone first as a test. And if there is response to triamcinolone, then I may inject the patient with Ozurdex after that. So I don't usually start with Ozurdex because you may inject Ozurdex and the patient shows no response. So we start with a little bit cheaper drug, which has the same, almost the same effect. And if it is effective, I go on with the Ozurdex. But I usually keep Ozurdex for patients with persistent edema after vitrectomy, so in a fluid-filled eye. But usually start with the anti-VEGF, not with steroid.
Shobit, you are a very fond user of Ozurdex. Your take on using this as a primary treatment, specifically in patients who have vitrectomized eye. So what I could gather here was that patients who have contraindications to anti-VEGF, like very recent stroke, pseudophakic, and vitrectomized eye, at least 3 of these indications can become primary kind of indication for Ozurdex.
One more indication, if I can add, is pregnancy. Overall, at the panel, everyone agrees that anti-VEGF would be the first choice, but only for some safety reasons, sometimes we use Ozurdex.
Yeah.
In fact, Raja has just done a very interesting study where he has been using it in conjunction with anti-VEGF in AMD cases.
Yeah, I remember there was a long time back, Augustine and all, they used to, in AMD, they used to have triple therapy for AMD. You remember, Anand? We used to, discuss and debate about that.
Yes. That was a very interesting debate in the VIS side. Yeah.
So, Ajay, anything you would like to add? Or Sangeet, to this treatment, to whatever? You muted.
I think you're muted, Ajay.
Ajay, can you unmute?
Yeah. The only thing I do is I begin with anti-VEGF always, and I start topical steroids just to check the steroid responder status. In case
that is a very painful. That's a very painful kind of how to find that is a steroid responder, because that takes drops for a couple of weeks. And only
no, it doesn't take more than 2 weeks, sir. And after injecting anti-VEGF only, I will require Ozurdex only after maybe 1.5 to 2 months, not before that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my practice, and practically only in vitrectomized eyes I have injected Ozurdex. By chance, I don't require.
Anything to be added?
Nothing.
One thing is like some biomarkers which are.
Yeah. I was coming to that. If you have too much of HRF or
HRF or there is neurosensory detachment.
Yeah.
Too less ischemia. Go in with
so does that lower your threshold for Ozurdex, or you are tempted to use that first line?
I will definitely go as a first choice in these type of cases. Especially if it has.
Especially
if he is a pseudo.
Yeah. So inflammatory kind of biomarkers, which like CSD
or hyperreflective dots. And
HRF. Yeah. So I think very nice. I think what we have discussed is at least 3-4 indications. I think all of you agree that vitrectomized eye, where there is a contraindication, pseudophakic, and biomarkers, which and pregnancy, which Raja said. these 4-5, these 5 indications may, especially pseudophakic, we may consider as first line primarily now because Ozurdex economy-wise also, and especially in COVID era, as Shobhita very nicely pointed out, that we do not want this patient to keep coming specifically till the time, till that we don't know till how much time corona lasts. So we should, try to give treatment so that number of visits or his interaction to this in the clinic is reduced.
And COVID test is also only valid for 7 days.
Yeah, true.
We get it done normally 72 hours before the procedure for every patient.
Correct. That is true. That is true.
Sir, just a minute. I am not a vitreoretinal surgeon and you all are vitreoretinal surgeon. You are discussing it well, but what I want to say that our non-vitreoretinal people are also attending this webinar. So what message you want to give for them? They want to refer, we want to refer it to retina patients, to retina specialists, but sometimes what happens, the patient is asking, sir, I want your opinion between the two. So just give us the guidelines where we can say that this is the reason that Ozurdex is better. Because sometimes it is a costlier treatment than anti-VEGF.
Thank you, Virender, for asking. No, it's firstly, let me remove this myth. It is not costlier. Okay. It is not costlier to anti-VEGF if you consider what Dr. Motada also said, 3 months it lasts. Okay. 3 months it lasts. And all of us agree that first line of management in a treatment naive patient, especially in a phakic patient, we start with anti-VEGF. And after 2 injections, if the response is inadequate, as judged by the line improvement as well as by OCT, then we shift to Ozurdex. However, in certain eyes, which all of us agreed that vitrectomized eye or inflammatory biomarkers, pregnancy or pseudophakic or contraindications, in these 4-5 situations and in COVID era, in these 5 situations, it may become the first line of management also. So that is the message for general ophthalmologist, which Viru, I am thankful to you that you have asked this question.
Dr. Lalit, one comment if I can make, I have shown in my earlier presentations, other webinars also, Ozurdex is not the same like anti-VEGF injection Avastin that anybody will be able to give. It's difficult, it's a different needle, it's vitreous can come out and it can cause damage to the lens if it has not been given earlier or trained. So that caution also has to be taken.
Thank you, Raja. Thank you, Raja. Viru also remember that you see all anti-VEGF are 30 gauge. This is 22 gauge.
23 gauge.
Therefore, we do encourage general ophthalmologists to become partners in diabetic care and ARNB care. However, in Ozurdex, I would personally request that let VR surgeon be the primary treating physician for Ozurdex, because it's not a straightforward injection. And people who think that it's straightforward, unless you have had training in medical retina, it's okay. That's what.
One issue which I like to discuss with cataract surgeons, that if they are operating an eye which has cataract and DME, they have implanted the lens, and if they have been adequately trained in putting Ozurdex, that is a good indication for them to combine both. So this is something we did long time back. We had some symposiums for cataract surgeons where we, taught them how to go ahead with Ozurdex in this situation, which is a great indication. And the cataract surgeon also becomes a partner in care.
So before we move to Sangeet Mittal, I will ask Anand this. Suppose there is a treatment naive patient of DME and he has significant cataract also. And his significant cataract means that cataract surgery is indicated, plus he has a DME. So will you consider at this time anti-VEGF or steroid?
So I actually prefer to go with anti-VEGF first. I actually don't do combined cataract with injections, though I know there are studies to show that it's effective. But I would rather do it probably even just a week ahead or maybe even 10 days ahead and keep the VEGF levels down and then do the cataract surgery. That's my practice. The reason I talk about that is because in the very, very, very rare instance of, infection happening, then you don't really want to have steroids in the eye. So it's just that.
Anybody would differ from this, or all of us agree with this?
I wouldn't differ, but I would say that I would like to give the first anti-VEGF injection
Exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
of the patient. The second injection can be a steroid if the patient wants to avoid too many visits, along with the cataract surgery after a month or or 40 days. That is what the window I look at. It's another way of, looking in the real world management of these patients.
So